How are you feeling today?
Well, I've been okay, but I have to tell you, I've kind of noticed a lot over the last couple months.
What do we need to be able to have understanding? We need more humanity. We need more care and compassion. And when people start to do that, we might be able to see a very different world today than we are living in right now.
Mental illness and the breakdown of the individual personality have become the medical profession's great new problems.
Psychology from the mid-1800s pretty much through to 1970, it was a minor field. Nobody really wanted to grow up to be a psychologist, and those who were typically academics.
Well, to be interested in psychoanalysis.
Sociology and philosophy and the meaning of life.
Psychology was pretty much Freud, Jung, Skinner, some other humanist psychologists. But they're all focused on defining what they would consider to be mental illness.
Who contribute special skills and knowledge to the diagnosis and treatment of mental and emotional disorders.
There was no such thing as short-term therapy. No idea of there might be people in the world who just needed some short-term help.
You know, in the 60s, there was a lot of social movements, a lot of change. We were hitting mental health crisis in this country.
There were people in the communities needing help, and there was nobody to provide it.
And when you see a need, it was, what are we going to do about this?
So in 1970, amidst all of the turmoil that's happening in the country, a group of people create the California School of Professional Psychology. We created a school and new training program that was more focused on creating therapists rather than simply academics. Something good would happen. But if the only training model available is one that is based on white European thinking, it's not going to work. That if you don't take race into account, if you don't take culture into account, if you don't understand you're in a paternalistic society, a whole range of those kinds of things, you can't create solutions for people who are living that on their daily basis. You have to have multicultural perspective, and then you have to begin to fill that with people who come from different cultural backgrounds.
Oftentimes, people who enter into the mental health field, they do so because of their own personal experiences with mental health. I was born in Port Said, Egypt. Growing up there was some of my happiest childhood memories, to be honest. When I came here to the United States, it was hard sometimes to try and, fit in between American culture and Egyptian culture, and I always kind of felt like I was in between both. People really experienced a lot of difficulties in acculturation and adapting to life in this country. It existed around me everywhere I turned my head. Mental health issues or mental illness or anxiety, depression. And people didn't often talk about that suffering. All they did was just sort of say it's, God is testing us. We were always told to make sure that our faith was really strong, and that was a great thing. That was considered to be resilience. But in a lot of times, prayers wasn't just enough, faith wasn't just enough, we needed more. I wanted to be part of that change. I didn't want to continue to perpetuate the stigma and continue to sort of sweep mental health under the rug. That would be wrong. I really wanted to, I think, challenge myself in a way to find out how much of a difference that I can make. And that's where my decision to go to Alliant really was beneficial. My goal was to expose myself to as many cultural communities as possible.
What is our ethical duty in being with others? What is it that is important for you to embody in your own life, but also in your own profession?
I realized that not many universities, if any, actually offered the emphasis on multicultural and international psychology. Multiculturalism was interwoven into every aspect of Alliant education.
Having a psychology workforce that's more representative of the clients that we're working with, right?
Valuing humility within all aspects of the field, whether it's within classes, whether it's at practicum sites, whether it's internship. All of the people that I worked with were extremely supportive of me getting in touch with that part of my identity, both culturally and also professionally.
Okay, everyone, so thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to be in conversation.
It was because of that that I really started to realize that all aspects of my identity were important to who I was and who I am.
I love my classes. I think they're really fruitful. It's really awesome that they're teaching us different modalities and different ways to help someone. But academia and clinical work are very different.
Come on, Phoebe, let's go. Let's go, Phoebe. We can actually work with this. Yes, we can actually work with this.
For a lot of university programs, what they were interested in is training so that we would have science and research, whereas CSPP was saying, no, we're going to do the practice. Both go hand in hand. It's kind of like you reading a manual about driving a car, and then you sit in the driver's seat, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's multiple things that you're having to do simultaneously.
You're quickly going to find out if you can do this type of work, and no judgment whatsoever, you know. But as long as your why is clear, my why has always been clear from day one. For me, and what I see in you is that it is a pillar of strength to stay stable and grounded in your why.
When I first started, I was like, whoo, if I am in the deep end with this, and I don't know if I could do it. But growing with my clients is important for me too, and learning as I go.
Me being a clinical supervisor, I'm a believer, you jump in with no floaties, because we're your floaties. What I promote here is you can do it. All that stuff. All right, well, Kay, you're up. Let's do it. Kay's going to be going over trauma in the brain.
Trauma changes things on a neuro level.
the molecular level, where the body actually loses capacity to focus and it goes into this shutdown. When we have an amygdala activation, when our body goes into this fight mode, right? That's the, whoop, I gotta get ready, I'm on guard, there's something happening. When this is online, this isn't.
It's off.
It's off. It shuts down. When you are in an active crisis, you cannot think clearly. So we look at the way we responded to that and we're like, man, I could have done this. Why didn't I do this? And you blame yourself, right? But what are your thoughts? Any questions? Any comments?
That was a very eloquent way of explaining exactly how, you know exactly what to do and you didn't do it. And then having guilt about that afterwards. But yeah, that's pretty spot on.
It's, your mind starts to think, what am I good for? You know?
Yeah.
And through therapy and finding your purpose again. And one thing I learned, when you're dying, right? When you think this is it, the only thing I could think about was my wife and kids.
Yeah.
That is my purpose.
Yeah. Right. Resiliency is, y'all are seeping with resiliency. That's why you're here. But I thank you for telling me your stuff.
All right. Anything else, you guys? This new generation of therapists is more bright-eyed, more curious. They're hungry. That's important because what's needed now, more than ever, are therapists that are courageous enough to build bridges, to challenge systems. We're supposed to progress. We're supposed to evolve.
Thinking about the past and then thinking about the present, somewhat the same as when CSPP was born. We're now in that place again where we need that spirit of breaking the mold.
In this current day and age, where we're seeing a lot of really harmful things happen in our country, the very patients that come in to see us are struggling and suffering because of the societal issues that are happening in our world every day. You can't bring a patient into the room and you validate and say, I'm so sorry that you're going through that, that must be really hard. Why don't you do some coping skills? It doesn't work. It doesn't fix the underlying issue. It's time for us to really use our experiences as therapists, as psychologists, as professionals, and say, we have a responsibility to fix the world. We need to use our voice to be able to affect change. Whether it's through policy, through activism, through advocacy, through research, through publications, that is our way.
¿Cómo estás? Ahí tengo pollo y arroz. Okay, de nada.
I think we have an ethical responsibility to try and change those things that are contributing to the issues that our clients face.
Yes, we can help this one person individually, but we can also help their family, and we can help the community. We can help with outreach. We can do focal groups. We can do seminars. We can make things cost effective. We can make things free.
It's a forever ongoing process of continuing to grow, continuing to evaluate what are the needs of the people.
When I look at the result of 50 years of work and who's out in that world and what they're doing, I feel like this place changed psychology. It's part of the DNA. That's where I think the future lies, is in many ways doing what it's always done. Somebody has to step into the unknown. And once you're in the unknown, you pull people into it. So you need to go into the darkness and you need to create your own light, and then you need to pull people into it. And it'll come from this place because that's all you've got here is a bunch of people who believe they can change themselves, change others, and change the world.